Hey there besties! Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're continuing our recap of the manhwa, Lucia. If you're new to this series, check the description below for links to previous episodes. Lastly, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy the video. It really helps our channel grow. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get started.
The doors to the palace hall opened with quiet grandeur, and Lucia stepped inside, calm and composed despite the lavish surroundings. A court attendant led her forward until she stood before the queen. "Welcome, Duchess," Queen Beth said warmly, a soft smile on her lips. "I've been looking forward to your arrival."
Lucia bowed.
"Thank you for the invitation, Your Majesty." Beth studied her. Among all the princesses I've met, she really does stand out, she thought. "I'm very glad you could come," she said, still seated. Her build is so slight, no wonder people find her delicate. "I'm honored to be here, Your Majesty," Lucia replied sincerely.
Beth observed her closely. So the rumors about her beauty weren't entirely exaggerated.
"You carry yourself well, Duchess. When I was your age, I could barely get a sentence out without stammering." "You're very kind," Lucia said modestly.
The queen chuckled. "And you speak only when needed.
That reminds me of your husband. Duke Taran isn't exactly talkative either."
Lucia lowered her gaze slightly. "I apologize.
I'm not great at conversation."
"It's a good trait," the queen said gently.
"I'm surrounded by talkers all day. Someone like you is a breath of fresh air."
She studied Lucia for a moment in thoughtful silence. She seemed sincere.
No pretense, no flattery, just honest politeness. It's surprising, given who she's married to.
I wonder what their dynamic is like. Does she feel at ease with him?
"I heard the Duke recently purchased quite a collection of jewelry for you, from Sepia Jeweler, wasn't it?"
Beth said, her tone light. Lucia smiled faintly.
"The story has grown in the telling, Your Majesty."
Beth raised an eyebrow playfully.
"Perhaps.
Still, it would be lovely to visit your estate someday."
"I'd like to see the jewels myself."
"It would be my pleasure to host you."
"I'll make the arrangements."
The queen's voice softened. "It does get a little lonely here at the palace."
"I would enjoy your company whenever you have the time." "I'll always make time if you invite me, Your Majesty." As she sipped her tea, Beth found herself drawing comparisons. She's so different from Quay's sister, Catherine. I can understand why Quays wants to cut her off.
"I'll have to find a suitor for her before things get worse."
Out loud, she said, "Shall we go to the Rose Chateau for tea? I recall you stayed there briefly once." Lucia nodded, a faint smile on her lips.
"Yes. The roses weren't in bloom at the time."
"I'm glad I'll get to see them now."
"They are at their peak this time of year," Beth said.
"I should ensure she doesn't cross paths with Countess Elvin, especially given the Countess's history with the Duke." Meanwhile, in the king's chamber, Quays was speaking with Duke Taran.
"So, what's your take on the matter?" he asked plainly.
Before Hugo could respond, a butler stepped in and bowed. "Your Majesty, pardon the interruption.
I have an update for His Grace." Quays waved a hand.
"Go ahead."
"Thank you."
"The Duchess has just finished her meal with the Queen and is now having tea at the Rose Chateau."
"Oh, yes. I remember the Queen mentioning it. Was that what you were discussing with the Chamberlain earlier? Checking on your wife?"
"Aren't you being a bit overprotective?"
Hugo stood abruptly.
Quays blinked, startled. "I'll return shortly," Hugo said, already moving.
"Where are you going?" "You startled me," Quays asked. "My wife is here."
"I should visit her," Hugo said, his expression firm.
Quays frowned.
"The Rose Chateau's on the far end of the palace grounds."
"He talks like it's just next door. Is it something urgent? Couldn't you send someone?" "No, nothing urgent," Hugo replied.
"But I don't rely on others to deliver personal matters." Quays stared, confused. "What?"
"I'll be back in time for the meeting," Hugo added and walked out.
"Did he just leave?" Quays asked, dazed. "Unbelievable." Turning to his butler, he asked, "What's your honest take on this?" "It seems His Grace simply missed the Duchess," the butler replied.
Quays sighed.
"That's what I thought too.
I just needed someone else to say it."
After all this time, still acting like newlyweds. Elsewhere in the palace, is my sister still at the Rose Chateau?
Count David Ramis asked a passing servant. "I'm not sure, my lord."
I heard she was having tea with a guest.
He frowned. Why go all that way for tea?
It tastes the same no matter where you drink it.
He sighed.
I'll just go to her. As he made his way through the garden, a memory surfaced, Beth's voice, cold and sharp.
The Duke is free to treat you as he sees fit. It's not your place to complain.
Even now, the memory still stung. She can't talk to me like that forever, he thought as he neared the chateau.
The scent of roses filled the air.
The blooms really are something this time of year, he admitted silently. After the coronation, the Rose Chateau should be given to my sister.
It's always been the favorite's domain.
And now, that same former guest, Lucia, is the Duchess?
He scoffed.
Some might call her a princess, but that's by lineage alone.
Strip that away, and she's no more than a noble's daughter.
A gust of wind swept through the garden. As he braced himself, a hat landed at his feet.
He looked up.
Lucia stood ahead of him, slightly flushed.
Their eyes met. David paused, caught off guard. His own face grew warm.
From where she stood, Lucia remembered David Rami's. His image had often appeared in her dreams. To her, he had always seemed like a man wearing a mask. Though she had only ever seen him from afar, something about his smile had unsettled her. It seemed forced, unnatural. As if he was trying too hard to appear kind, she had once thought. One moment, in particular, lingered in her memory. It had occurred during a ball, just before her marriage to Count Metten unraveled. She had noticed David speaking in hushed tones with a man in the corner of the room. That man, his Duke Rami's firstborn, isn't he? She had thought, watching curiously. He was usually surrounded by his followers at events like these, so what was he doing alone? She had drifted closer, just in time to overhear their conversation.
David's voice had grown sharp. What? Are you certain?
Is that truly what my father said? He demanded. Yes, my lord, the aide had replied solemnly. It appears His Grace intends to name your younger brother as his heir. David's expression had darkened. Lucia had watched from a distance, stunned. The look on his face had been unlike anything she'd ever seen from him, cold, furious, betrayed. That warm, rehearsed smile had vanished in an instant. She had brushed it off at the time, but something about that moment had unsettled her. Her heart had pounded with inexplicable dread, like a storm was brewing. After her marriage to Count Metten ended, Lucia had withdrawn from society. She took up work as a maid in a noble household, trying to bury the past. During those quiet years, she heard that Duke Rami's had died, and David had inherited the title. It's tragic, a fellow maid had said. The Duke's second son died young, such a promising young man. But Lucia had never believed it was just an accident. The whispers said so, but her instinct screamed otherwise. Years later, even darker rumors emerged. Duke Rami's had allegedly conspired to commit treason. His entire household was executed, along with members of the royal family. The queen consort, of House Rami's, and the Duke had plotted to place the crown prince on the throne. What became of David after that remained a mystery. Back in the garden, David approached, Lucia's hat in hand. This hat, he said smoothly, a symbol of a fateful meeting with a beautiful lady, landed at my feet. I return it to you, with the hope that we might continue this destined encounter. He bowed gracefully, eyes twinkling with charm. The moment I saw you, it felt as though a rose had taken human form. Lucia narrowed her eyes slightly, tension knotting in her chest. Does he recognize me? Is that why he's saying these things? Thank you for returning my hat, she said politely as she took it back. Thank goodness I followed Jerome's advice not to be alone today. David continued, unbothered. My lady, your radiant beauty is overwhelming. I feel as though I might go blind. Lucia flushed, uneasy. Why are you too kind? I mean every word. I am Count David Rami's of House Rami's. May I have the honor of knowing your name? And if you have a moment, might you join me for a walk? He gestured toward the rose-lined path, voice soft, coaxing. I hope the scent of these roses may inspire you to open your heart to me. Before Lucia could respond, a cold voice sliced through the air. That won't be possible. She has another engagement. Duke Hugo Taran stepped forward, his presence imposing. Both turned, startled. What are you doing? Lucia began, confused. Duke Taran. David muttered, visibly unsettled as Hugo wrapped an arm around Lucia. What business do you have with my wife? Hugo asked, his voice tight. Your wife. David echoed, stunned. His expression paled as he saw Lucia's blushing face in Hugo's hold. You mean she's the Duchess? That radiant beauty, she's his wife?
David's jaw clenched. Hugo's eyes darkened.
Maybe losing his sight would teach him not to act so foolish, he thought grimly. Lord Ramise, he said icily, do not approach my wife in such a setting again. David straightened, trying to regain composure. With all due respect, Your Grace, you're overreacting. We were simply making idle conversation. And marriage doesn't turn a woman into property.
Hugo's fury spiked. To hell with consequences.
Maybe I should kill him right here.
But then his gaze fell on Lucia. He sighed, squeezing her shoulder gently. Damn it. Why does she have to be so beautiful?
Even fools like him flock to her. He had watched David from afar, growing more furious with each step the man had taken toward her. No other man needs to admire how lovely my wife is, he muttered under his breath. I didn't spend a fortune on her just to have others gawk at her. Then, he gave a cold smile. Duke Ramise must have had the patience of a saint, because his son clearly believes he's immortal. David bristled. What did you just?
But Hugo's glare made him flinch. He stumbled and fell.
Run along, brat, Hugo thought, locking eyes with him before walking away with Lucia's hand in his. David remained frozen on the ground, stunned. Are you all right? Came a voice. Beth stood nearby, arms crossed. Of all the women, you chose to flirt with the Duchess.
Beth.
I didn't know she was the Duchess.
David protested. I thought she was the one. He clenched his fists and stood.
Unless it's urgent, Beth said, coolly, you should leave. My guest is waiting. Do you mean Her Grace? David asked uncertainly. Beth gave him a pointed look. Didn't the Duke's warning get through that thick skull of yours? Don't be foolish. David scoffed.
You call that a warning?
He practically threatened to kill me.
You're exaggerating, Beth replied.
There's no law in the Empire that bans a married woman from talking to a man. David smirked.
Noblemen are allowed 1 or 2 lovers, aren't they?
Yes, but not in front of her husband, Beth snapped, now clearly uneasy. It was wrong of him to flirt with her, but the Duke, he overreacted. It was the first time she'd ever seen Duke Taran lose his composure like that. Ridiculous, but was the Duke jealous? She thought, unable to shake the feeling. Duke Hugo walked briskly through the palace gardens, gripping Lucia's hand as he led her through the rose mazes. Her brows were furrowed, her expression caught between frustration and confusion. Hugh, what's going on? She asked. Slow down. He came to an abrupt stop and turned to her. Without a word, he cupped her chin and kissed her, catching her off guard. She responded, and when they parted, both were slightly breathless, cheeks flushed. That designer needs to be fired, he said sharply.
Lucia blinked.
What?
Who told you to wear that?
To look like this.
His voice dropped.
You had to go and look so stunning. But, you were the one who took me to Madame Ant's boutique, she said, puzzled. You paid quite a bit for her services. You can't just fire her. She straightened her posture and met his gaze with quiet resolve. You're the one who said I should dress appropriately to reflect the Taran household's reputation. Have you forgotten? Hugo exhaled sharply. People have been looking at you far too much lately. He didn't say it aloud, but the thought burned in his mind. To hell with our reputation.
I just didn't want everyone else seeing her like this.
I bought those gowns because you wouldn't spend anything on yourself, he muttered.
I just wanted to see you happy.
I didn't mean for you to turn every head in the room.
Lucia's eyes narrowed.
You left in the middle of a conversation with Her Majesty.
That was extremely rude.
Hugo's frustration boiled over. Does that even matter right now?
She stared at him.
What do you mean? What happened? That man was making a pass at you, he said without hesitation. Lucia looked genuinely surprised. What? Don't be silly. He just picked up my hat and returned it to me. I know what I saw, Hugo replied, voice tight. That wasn't a simple gesture. He was flirting. Lucia gave him a look. You would know, wouldn't you? With your experience. He flinched. You're overreacting, she said with a light laugh. I won't do anything to disgrace the Taran name. You know that. That's not what I'm worried about, Hugo muttered, looking away. The family name doesn't matter. I just dragged her here to the blooming yellow roses without thinking. Lucia tilted her head.
Then what are you worried about? She followed his gaze to the rose bushes. Her eyes widened slightly. These are roses, she thought. Jerome always said Hugo hated roses. He refused to let me plant them in the north. Was that really true? She looked at him, cheeks flushed. She reached out, gently taking his hand. Even if that man was trying to flirt with me, as long as I don't respond, it doesn't matter, right? She said softly. Hugo's gaze softened, and his cheeks reddened. He said nothing. Her Majesty is expecting us for tea. Do you have a moment to join us? She asked. Yes, he said quietly. They resumed walking, still holding hands. We need to get out of here, Hugo thought. Away from all these roses. After a moment of silence, Lucia spoke again. Hugh, this might sound strange, but I want to ask you something. He raised an eyebrow. Go ahead. Do you think there's a chance House Ramis might commit treason someday? The question hit him hard. Duke Ramis? A traitor? He took a breath, his tone cautious. He's served the crown faithfully. His daughter has 3 royal children. He's built an ideal legacy. I doubt he'd throw it away. I'm not talking about now, Lucia said. I meant far in the future, when Count Ramis inherits the title. She paused, her expression uneasy. You're always careful, but earlier, it felt like you looked down on him. I hope he takes this seriously, she thought. When David becomes duke. Hugo said, more thoughtful now. He's just a spoiled young man at the moment. But give it time, he might turn into someone much more cunning. He fell silent, his mind racing. If Vivian's right and he does anything remotely treasonous, I'll eliminate him before he can make a move. He glanced at Lucia. What made you even think of that? She looked away. Something about the way he looked at me earlier, it made me uncomfortable. And I can't even tell Hugh about the dream I had, she thought. I'm sure it's nothing, she said aloud. Forget I mentioned it. Hugo gently took her hand again. Are you worried about me? Is that a bad thing? Not at all. He pressed a kiss to her hand. I appreciate it. But I don't want you to worry. If anything becomes a threat, I'll take care of it. Lucia smiled faintly. He always seems capable of handling anything. With him, even the worst fears feel distant, like I'm protected by something invisible. That's what I love about him, she thought, blushing. I heard you ask Jerome about the yellow roses, Hugo said, his voice calm and direct. Lucia looked up, caught off guard. His tone softened slightly. In the future, just come to me directly, whether it's about the roses or anything else. His words, steady and warm, settled around her like quiet reassurance. But what if I end up bothering you by asking too often? Lucia asked, her voice tentative. You could never be a bother, Hugo replied with quiet certainty. Lucia thought back to the early days of their marriage. Hugo had always promised to be a devoted husband, and he never said things he didn't mean. Each evening, he would sit beside her and share his plans for the next day, where he'd be, what he'd be doing. It had always brought her peace. She never imagined him hiding anything from her. With a schedule so open, there was little room for secrets. That was Hugo, sincere and consistent. All right, she said softly, a small smile forming on her lips. Later, they sat with Beth for tea. Lucia hadn't expected him to stay. I assumed he'd leave once he'd spoken to the Duchess, Beth thought. I didn't expect him to sit down and join us. Though not one to entertain rumors, she found herself wondering if perhaps they were true. Watching them, she sensed something unspoken, familiarity, ease. Lucia, however, was distracted by something else. He never told me why he came to find me. What did he want to talk about? As she considered this, Hugo smirked slightly, licking his lips. The gesture made her blush instantly as memories of their kiss in the rose garden flashed in her mind. Has he no shame? She thought, averting her gaze. The Queen noticed her flushed cheeks. Is it too warm in here, Duchess? You look a bit flushed. Lucia blinked, startled. Oh, no, I'm perfectly fine, Your Majesty. Trying to steer the conversation elsewhere, she turned to Hugo. About that tea you mentioned earlier. Just then, one of the Queen's ladies-in-waiting entered quickly and whispered to Beth. The King has sent someone to find you, Duke Taran. The meeting is about to start, Beth relayed. Lucia turned to him in surprise. You have a meeting? She asked. She hadn't heard anything about it.
She watched him in disbelief. Why is he sitting here so calmly if he's expected elsewhere?
Hugo stood after finishing his tea.
I'll take my leave now, he said to the Queen. May your meeting go smoothly, Beth replied with a polite smile. Likewise, Your Majesty, he responded. Before leaving, he turned to Lucia. Come with me for a moment.
Wordlessly, she followed him out of the Queen's parlor. Beth watched them leave, thoughtful.
There's no tension between them. In fact, the way they look at each other, it's almost like a secret affair. Outside, Lucia walked beside Hugo, flustered. What is it? Won't you be late? You really should go. Before she could finish, he pulled her into a hug. There are people around, she gasped, her heart racing. What are you doing?
But he didn't let go.
I'll be late today, he said softly.
I know.
You told me yesterday, she murmured, still dazed. Are you heading home after tea? He asked. Yes, once I've finished with Her Majesty.
He leaned closer and kissed her. There are people watching. She thought, but she couldn't pull away.
Wait for me,
he said. And try not to fall asleep first.
We've still got unfinished business. He kissed her cheek, then stepped away. Lucia stood there, stunned, her lips tingling. How can he kiss me like that in front of everyone? She thought, her cheeks burning. I'll definitely scold him for this later. Your Majesty, a voice called behind her. Lucia turned to find the Queen approaching, a knowing smile on her face. I was wondering why you hadn't returned, Beth said gently.
I was just about to come back, Lucia stammered.
Beth chuckled to herself.
So the rumors were true after all.
The Duke didn't take her north just for her beauty, there's something more between them.
She glanced at Lucia, amused.
Quays will be speechless when he sees how they really are together. But for now, I'll keep it to myself, it's too entertaining. A few days later, Lucia sat in her drawing room, reviewing a folder just delivered. Information on Countess Jordan, the hostess of tomorrow's tea party, Jerome explained.
Lucia skimmed the notes. Countess Jordan, 38. She and the Count have 2 sons and 5 daughters.
Of the 5, only the 3rd daughter is legitimate, a widely known fact.
She enjoys gardening and is an accomplished singer.
Is it normal to receive such detailed information before a party?
Lucia asked.
In her dreams, back when she was Count Matin's wife, no one had ever given her this kind of preparation. I always assumed they had a strong marriage because of their many children, she thought. I never imagined.
She glanced at the next page.
The tea party was originally meant to be a small gathering, Jerome continued. But once Your Grace accepted the invitation, others requested to be included. Now the guest list has grown significantly.
Lucia blinked.
So it's no longer just 10 people.
No.
The Countess has expanded it to 50 guests, Jerome confirmed. What?
Lucia exclaimed.
That night, Hugo asked about the party. You're going to the tea party tomorrow? Yes, she replied with a sigh. It sounds like it's going to be exhausting, Hugo noted. Why not skip it? He suggested.
We'll make sure no one notices you're not there.
You can always attend another one later. Lucia shook her head gently, a faint smile on her lips. I never imagined so many people would want to meet me. I'm surprised it's turned into such a big gathering. She paused, then added, Still, this isn't something I can treat lightly. Hugo frowned, concern tightening his expression. I just don't think it's worth the risk, he said, his voice firmer. I can't shake the feeling something might go wrong. What if something happens, like back in the north when you collapsed? Lucia looked at him, calm but determined.
It would be rude to cancel now.
If I don't show up, people will start talking. A trace of coldness crossed Hugo's face.
Then let them.
And they'll find out what it means to spread thoughtless rumors.
Lucia blinked in surprise.
I've never known anyone to go after gossip like that, she thought. Still, she smiled and replied. As long as I show up, there won't be anything for them to talk about.
I'll go. Hugo let out a sigh and brushed a hand through his hair. You really can be stubborn. What time does it end tomorrow?
Since it starts in the afternoon, it should wrap up before sunset, she answered. If you want to leave early, you can, he said. You're the Duchess. You don't need permission. The next morning, Fabian looked drained. I don't get why His Grace is fussing over this. Since when does he care about gossip? Is something going around?
Jerome asked quietly.
He's been under pressure lately.
Can't we get a break? Jerome thought. No one's ever had kind things to say about the Duke before. Is something happening between them?
Fabian frowned, his tone tense. Why is he suddenly so fixated on rumors?
Jerome hesitated. No, nothing like that.
Actually, they seem closer than ever.
More than they were in Roham. He flushed slightly.
After dinner, the servants steer clear of their chambers, he muttered. The atmosphere of the estate had shifted. Once cold and formal, it now felt warm.
Her Grace had brought change.
The staff often whispered and giggled, noting how affectionate the Duke and Duchess remained even after a year. So where is His Grace now?
Fabian asked. He's not at the palace, Jerome replied. He took Her Grace to the tea party.
He'll be back soon. A tea party? Fabian asked, eyebrows raised. Isn't that usually just for women?
He's just escorting her, Jerome explained patiently.
Since when is that a thing? Fabian asked again, baffled. He seems like a different man. I've seen some changes, especially with the errands he sends me on for her, Fabian thought.
But this is something else entirely. Carriages pulled into Countess Jordan's manor.
Oh, that's the Taran household's coach. The Duchess must be arriving soon, the ladies murmured. They say she just turned 20, and that she's quite beautiful. As the door opened, Duke Hugo stepped out first. Is that Duke Taran? Gasps rippled through the group. He reached in and gently helped Lucia down, his expression soft. Sophia Lawrence, standing among the ladies, stared.
His smiling? She thought in disbelief.
Then he kissed Lucia's hand, and then her cheek. The entire scene unfolded before the stunned audience. Every noble lady in attendance saw it clearly. The rumors about the Duke and Duchess's closeness weren't exaggerated. The way he looked at her, the way he lingered before letting her go.
He was clearly in love.
My goodness, one woman whispered. I've never seen a husband escort his wife to a tea party before.
And it's the Duke, another added.
Sophia Lawrence stood quietly, her expression unreadable.
Lucia stepped inside gracefully.
Thank you for the invitation, Countess. I'm so glad you could come, Your Grace, the Countess beamed.
It's an honor.
And you're even lovelier than the rumors say. She's really only 20. She looks young, but there's something about her.
Something commanding.
She's got the same presence as the Duke, the Countess thought, observing her. Lucia kept her posture poised, recalling Aunt's strict advice.
Think poise. Think elegance.
You want to give off an aura that says, bow before me, Aunt had said with a terrifying look. I've been trying to carry myself with that kind of dignity, Lucia thought. I hope I'm doing it right.
A steward approached.
This way, Duchess. Lucia followed until they reached the Countess's table, then stopped.
Oh.
I didn't expect to be seated with Sophia. I'm Sophia Elvin, the woman introduced herself calmly. Wife of Count Elvin.
Lucia froze inside. Elvin?
She's the Count's wife? A memory flickered in her mind, from a dream, from another life. When she was a maid, she'd served Countess Elvin.
But that woman wasn't Sophia. Her chest tightened. The future has changed.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. If you enjoyed what you watched, please consider liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Your comments mean the world to us and help us improve. The next episode promises even more excitement and unexpected twists, so stay tuned as we embark on this thrilling journey together. Keep the anticipation alive, and we'll catch you in the next episode.